Good morning, everyone. Okay, we'll continue our book reading this morning, Advanced Selling Strategy by Brian Tracy. Today, we'll continue our book reading on page 389. And today, we're looking at 5 errors to avoid when closing the sales. Yesterday, we finished the 10 requirements for closing sales. So the 5 errors to avoid when closing the sales. So there are 5 common errors that salespeople make in the course of the sales conversation that can derail or destroy a sale to even the most qualified prospect. It is important that you be aware of them and that you avoid them at all costs. The first is arguing. When you argue with a prospect, you are indirectly telling him he is wrong. People hate to be told they are wrong, especially when it is obvious they are. They dislike people who point out their errors. Always be agreeable in a sales conversation. If the prospect challenges your claim for your product, use the feel, felt, found method and say something like, I understand how you could feel that way. Others felt the same way when we first showed them this aspect of our product, but this is what they found when they started using it. Your job is to win a customer, not to win an argument. Unless the customer questions the integrity of your company or the quality of your product, let it pass. Focus on what the product can do for him and ignore the rest. The second error that salespeople make is expressing personal opinions, especially those of a religious or political nature. You may feel very strongly about your belief, but you should remember that other people may feel equally strongly about theirs. Customers like to buy from people who are similar to themselves. If it turns out that you are vocal in taking a position that is opposite to that of your customer, he will probably not want to buy from you. Never assume that the customer agrees with your particular set of beliefs. A third error that salespeople make is knocking the competition. Shakespeare wrote, "The fragrance of the rose lingers on the hand that casts it." The fragrance of whatever you throw seems to linger on your hand, and when you're selling, the fragrance seems to hover around your product. If your competitor is not mentioned, you shouldn't mention them either. If your competition is not mentioned, you shouldn't mention them either. Never discuss them by name. Never bring them up to compare your product with theirs or attack them for any reason. If your customer says something about buying from your competition or talking to your competition, you should acknowledge his remark by simply saying ABC Incorporated is a very funny company. They have been in the business for a long time and they do a good job for their customer. By speaking well of your competition, you will indirectly be speaking well of yourself and your product. You will look and sound good to your prospects, especially if your competition has said something derogatory about you or your product in a previous meeting. If your prospect is going to buy from either you or a particular competitor and he needs to know why he should choose your product instead of others, you can undermine the competition indirectly. Instead of attacking them by name, you can instead attack their methods of process as being inadequate or insufficient to solve their customers' specific problem. You concentrate on showing that the approach or structure of your company is superior to that of others in dealing with the needs of these customers. The fourth error to avoid is overselling. This happens when you say that your product can do something it cannot. It verges on the border between puffing and misrepresentation. Since the element of trust is the critical catalyst that makes the sales come together in the end, you cannot afford to do or say anything that might shatter that trust. In fact, Understatement in selling today is probably more impressive than overstatement. Instead of you saying something exceptional about the capabilities of your product, you can tell about an experience enjoyed by one of your customers. Put the words in someone else's mouth. It is much easier for a customer to accept and believe a positive remark if it is someone other than you who has said it. The fifth error to avoid is assuming authority that you don't have. This occurs when you tell the prospect that you can arrange a discount or speed up a delivery schedule, and then it turns out that you can't. When you have to go back to the prospect and confess that you were unable to deliver on your promises, you undermine your credibility and weaken the trust bound on which the entire sales relationship depends. Not only must you do things right, but you must avoid doing things wrong as well. If it doesn't help, it hurts. Recall the Hippocratic oath: do not harm. It's a good rule to follow. So this is your stuff for our reading this morning. It said the 5 errors to avoid when closing sale. So the one of them is to avoid arguing. Never find yourself arguing with your prospects, even if you dislike the point of view where they are coming from. Never argue with them. Rather try to understand and give us a method which we can use, the feel, felt, and found method, when they start to argue about your product or about your services. The second error you have to avoid as a salesperson is personal opinion. Your personal opinion doesn't really matter, most especially when it comes to religious or political view. You may feel strongly about your own belief, but that doesn't mean you should try to, rub it off on your customers at that moment when you're having a sales conversation with them. Because as he told us here, that customers or people, or rather prospects, like to buy from people who have the same point of view with them, who are vocal about their own point of view and is the same thing with them. So the third error to avoid as a salesperson is knocking the competition. So never discuss your competition or your competitors with your clients or with your customer. Never mention them or never mention their products, except or unless your prospect or client talks about it. Even if they talk about it, you shouldn't be so quick to judge or say derogatory comments about their product and their services of your competition. Rather, you should acknowledge and give simple remarks about that company that is your competitor. Then the fourth error to avoid is overselling. This happens when you say that your product can do something, but it actually cannot do something. Don't say what your product cannot do. The fifth one is assuming authorities, which is where the last point we read said, don't put yourself in authority when you know that you're not there or you cannot be there. Don't tell the customers that you're going to give them a discount when you know that you're not in the position to give them a discount. Don't tell them you're going to do a fast delivery when you know you're not in the position to give them a fast delivery. Rather, you know that there's someone you are working under who is in charge of you, who is ahead of you, and you can call that person to ask for permission or do other things. If you do it that way, and at the end of the day they find out that you will not be able to deliver on their promises, it breaks trust between you and that customer or that client. It breaks bond between you and that client. It doesn't talk well of your relationship. It won't speak well of you as a salesperson, and it won't speak well of you, and it won't speak well of your company. So that's just a brief summary of our reading this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.